Next up is Bridge the Divides, Transformed Politics. That's the goal of Nuns on the Bus, but in our case here in Kansas, Nuns in the Van. A little background for you. During the 2010 congressional debate about health care reform, Sister Simone Campbell wrote her famous Nuns letter supporting the reform bill, and she got 59 leaders of Catholic sisters to sign on. This action was cited by many as critically important in passing the Affordable Care Act. In 2012, she was instrumental in organizing the Nuns on the Bus tour of 9 states to oppose the Ryan budget that would have decimated programs meant to help people in need. Nuns on the Bus received an avalanche of attendance across the nation from religious communities, elected officials, and the media. Sister Simone has led 3 cross-country Nuns on the Bus trips focused on economic justice, comprehensive immigration reform, and most recently, voter turnout. She is currently the executive director of Network, a national Catholic social justice lobby. In Kansas today, we have a smaller branch of Nuns on the Bus, the Nuns in the Van, with Alice Kitchen, who works with Sister Simone as a board member of Network, and Therese Bangert, a 30-year advocate for social justice. They have been in Wichita working with Dear Neighbor Ministries and have some interesting experiences to share. Alice has been a director of social work and community services for Children's Mercy Hospitals and Clinics. She was a social work instructor for the KU School of Social Welfare and is currently with the University of Missouri Kansas City School of Social Work. She is also a dues-paying member of Women for Kansas. So, before I invite them to the podium, let's roll the movie. Lights,
Welcome
please.
everyone to St. Anthony Catholic Church. I'm Father Paul Turner. I'm the pastor here, and on behalf of our community, I'm greatly honored to welcome Nuns on the Bus.
Let's do this. Let's welcome the sisters with a big welcome, sisters, in your native language. So on the count of 3.
Welcome, sisters! I've worked at Taco Bell for a year and a half, and I make $11.25 an hour. And even though it is above the minimum wage, I'm still not able to pay my bills like I want to and still not rely on government assistance. On top of that, I can't afford health insurance through my work, so I haven't been to see a doctor since I was pregnant. Fast food workers are strong people, fair people. We have dignity on our jobs. We're parents. We're people just like everyone else, and we deserve a living wage.
I've been a home care worker since I was 17. I used to help people just in the hood. I cook, I clean, I help them take baths, I help people go to bed, help them go to the bathroom, I run errands for them, and I do a whole lot more. Between 2 agencies, I work 40 hours and I make like $9 an hour with no benefits. Okay, I get by working a full-time job on the weekend. I survive by working 90 hours a week. I work 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I never have a day out. 1 full-time job should be enough. I need a living wage.
I'm the oldest out of 6 siblings, and we're staying with my grandma since our parents have been deported on May of this year. And my dad first went to pay a ticket, and there he was arrested by immigration and was detained and sent back to Honduras. And so our care has fallen to my grandma, who I thank, and I'm sorry, and she hasn't been working, and still she can take care of us, which I thank God. And I don't know why they deport people. My dad is a good man, a hardworking man. He works every day to take care of us. He's a good father and good husband. And since then we have been struggling. My sisters took it so bad since they're younger. They need both our parents. My sister here, Stephanie, who is 11 years old, tried to commit suicide. But I thank God that she's still here with us. we're still fighting. And all we want is for our parents to be with us, because they're like the roots to a tree. And a tree without roots dies slowly. And all I ask is for help, because this is so unfair. And we really want our family to be back together.
Being an undocumented student, there's many obstacles I encounter and my family encounters. Or seeing your parents struggling on finding a paying job to support a family, yet seeing my father, who is a roofer, struggle on being paid because people do take advantage of us. Since the 9th grade, I had the ambition to start my own business. When I turned 18, that same summer, I went and got my business license and started my own construction company. Wow. Thank you. When Congress should protect DAPA and DACA. DAPA is an executive action to protect our parents. Not only should the young deserve opportunities and be protected, but also the old, like our mothers and fathers.
Today is a plea to the Congress to work together, to work together for our people. Yes. To finally reunite all the families that need it. And I hope the Congress hears this voice. It's a plea today for all the Congress to be one. America needs to unite it. We don't need to divide it.
We can change this reality. That's why we're on the road. In Washington, D.C. and on the East Coast, everybody's saying, the Pope is coming, the Pope is coming. But what we knew was, so are the nuns, absolutely. But what we knew is that we needed to go on the road in advance of the Pope's coming so that we can gather all across this nation to say, we're in this together. We hear Pope Francis's call to all of us to end the exploitation that's going on. Pope Francis says we don't have an economic crisis and an environmental crisis. We have a single crisis of exploitation. And that's what we just heard about. Our people and our earth need to be reverenced at all times. And that's why we're on the road. We know that we need to bridge divides. And if we're going to have an economy and environment of inclusion, we know we need to transform politics to create a politics of inclusion where everyone's voice gets heard at the table. It's hugely, hugely important that we share our stories, because it's when we're together, we know we're in community, and I have your back, you have my back. We are compadres, comadres en la lucha. We are together in the struggle, because when we're together in the struggle, we don't have to lose heart. We don't have to be afraid, because we're family to each other. Your family is our family. We need to be together in making a difference. So we are on the road to welcome your stories, to have our hearts broken. Now, my sisters and I were crying over here. Y'all had us in tears. I just want you to know, knowing what the struggle is. But that's what's important. It's not our heads, it's not our theories. Pope Francis tells us that what we have to do is take the reality into ourselves and claim it as our own. And by knowing that pain and struggle, we will each discover what each of us can do about it. Because we, the people, can make a difference. We, the people, can bridge the divides. We, the people, can end the politics of polarization by saying, stop it. We've had enough. Now you've been name calling and get over it. The fact is, we the people need to insist on governance. We the people need to insist on a fix so people who work full time can take care of their families. No one should have to work 3 jobs. That's ridiculous. 90 hours a week? No one can do that. Even nuns on the bus can't do that. So it may feel like it, but we don't do that. No one should have their family torn apart. No one should worry if they're going to see their parents again. No one should think, I can't support my family. That is wrong in the richest nation on earth. We're better than that. We are better than that, and we're not going to take it anymore, right? Right. Okay. So, here's the deal. We're all becoming missionaries for the common good. Now, somebody told me last night they didn't like the idea of missionaries because it sounded a little, I don't know what, a little violent or something. I don't care how you do it. But what I say is, we've got to speak up. We cannot be silent in the face of our problems. We cannot stand back from having our hearts broken by folks like this. We, the people, have got to stand together and let people know enough is enough. We need solutions in our governance. We need solutions in our cities. We need solutions in our capitals. We need solutions in Washington, D.C. We need solutions. We don't need more language, verbiage, hot air. So, if you're willing to commit to bridging the divides and transforming our politics, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to sign our pledge cards, and our sisters have their pledge cards. They'll pass them out to you. Get to know our sisters. Make sure that, sign the pledge card. And once you've signed the pledge, some of you already have them. Perfect. The advanced class here. And once you've signed the pledge cards, then we invite you sign our bus, so that everybody becomes. It's not just the nuns on the bus. It's all of us on the bus, bridging divides, transforming politics. We need you, Kansas City. We need all of Missouri. We need all of Kansas to stand up and say, enough is enough. Our folks shouldn't suffer. We, the people, are better than this. Let's make change happen. And let's spread the word that Pope Francis says, we're in it together. We'll act with the Pope. Whether we're Catholics or not, everyone's welcome in Pope Francis's world. Yes. Let's make it happen. These people shouldn't suffer. Let's do it. Thank you so much.
All right, so that was September. After the Kansas City visit, we got back on the bus and went to Topeka. And in Topeka, we visited the distribution center. And then we walked across the street and we went to the shelter there, had a meal with the people at the distribution center, got to see what is being done here in Topeka. And then we went to a local church in the middle of Topeka for a town hall meeting, which, as you would expect, we were visited by the Westboro Baptist members. It was such a contrast, this huge bus and then the parade over on the other side. Anyway, I know you know so well what that's all about. So the nuns are getting back on the bus this July. They're going to go to 12 states and 28 cities. Talk about a really arduous trip. Anyway, they're going to do the middle Atlantic states all the way to the west to Wisconsin, where Paul Ryan is again, and they visited him before. And they will also go on back up to the northeast. Now, you heard the themes: bridge the divide, bring people together, we can dialogue, talk, communicate, and talk about our shared interests and our values. And then bridge the gap is a big part of what network. And I'm on the board, and we spend a lot of time talking about what that means. And bridge the gap is to reduce the disparity between the high and the low income, the vast, enormous gap between both the high and low, and to make sure that no one is left out. You heard the stories, and those are just some of the stories. The one woman who worked in home care, the only time she ever got off was when she went to the hospital to get health care for herself. And of course, she didn't have insurance, even though she does home care and nursing home care for 90 hours a week. That's not acceptable. Okay, so the network is the actual national organization, a 501c3 and a 4, and I am on the 4 budget, and on the four, not budget, but on the board for the four. And it was founded 44 years ago by 47 different Catholic sisters from across the country. And one of them was a member of the Sisters of St. Joseph here in Wichita, and her name is Sister Catherine Pinkerton. She was the first director of Network 44 years ago. So the purpose of Network is to lobby the executive and the legislative branches on social justice issues. And those are quite purposefully, as you would expect, fair wages, adequate safety net, available and affordable housing, access to employment, public education that is fully supported, available and affordable health care, and protection from harm. Now, as you heard Mary say, that Sister Simone was in D.C., where the office is, and she was working with the Congress members around the Affordable Care Act when it was in its tumultuous stages of going through the Congress, and it was tumultuous. And as you heard, she got the signatures, she and another Catholic sister, Sister Carolyn, who was the head of the National Catholic Hospital Association. Between the two of them, they garnered enough support across the country from Catholic sisters, and that provided the backup and the support for the Congress people who were Catholic and worried about the opposition of the bishop. They did not want to go against their bishop. And so when the Congress members saw that the sisters were in support of it, that gave them the comfort. And as you probably guessed, the sisters can do a lot more than most people because they can get away with it because they have no private benefit. We're not a PAC. We can't bribe. We don't have money to buy. We just have moral courage, and that's what it's about. So that was the important part about the Affordable Care Act, and that was getting it passed. And then, as Sheldon has explained so well, that was the first part. And many states across the country did expand Medicaid, and more people, 12 million or something, are now insured who weren't before, and it continues to grow, but not in Kansas. And as you saw in those very vivid slides, that 150,000 Kansas do not have access to health insurance, and we're giving away $1.5 million every day to other states so they can have health insurance and coverage. That's immoral. It's unacceptable. And Network is about the common good. Remember that concept? The common good? Where did we lose it? This morning, before we came here, we went to meet with the Sisters of St. Joseph at Stepping Stone and Dear Neighbor. We got to meet some of their people that they work with, support, train, and hired. And it was a really very meaningful visit. And I want to say that faith-based organizations across the state of Kansas are doing a yeoman job supporting programs that they should not have to support because the government has eroded, and the safety net that is there that we, the taxpayer, pay for is not doing the job. So that important role of government, we cannot let it erode. And the faith-based communities cannot do it all and shouldn't be asked to do so. So we're delighted that we're here, and we want to recognize the work that Women for Kansas are doing, and that you're all joining together to provide a strong push forward. The other thing that's troubling me is that in the recent years when the temporary assistance for needy families was cut back, and we had 5 years for low-income people, families trying to raise children, and when they cut that back, they severely affected the people who are like new moms that have new babies, are brand new, and those parents of newborns need to be with their infants. We would expect that. We want that for all mothers, all parents to be able to be with their newborns and not out looking for a job. That's what we want for everybody. And so cutting back the availability of the resources for those families from 5 years to 24 months is unacceptable. And I wonder where the money that we could have received is going. I don't know if you've ever seen the bumper sticker, but it says, if you are not outraged, you're not paying attention. And it's so true. And then I think of that word courage. And you break the word courage up and it's cur and then rage. And the rage that we have is outrageous indignation. And that we have a right to own. We join with you here in Kansas to support fully funded and supported schools, public schools, courts that are strong, funded, and independent. We want voting to be easy and obstacle-free. We hope everybody is working on voter registration and getting people to the polls. That's really important. That's what's going to make the difference. And the earned income tax, which I'm sure Therese will talk about, how important that is, and to keep it strong and to keep the ceiling going up. Immigrant reform is a big agenda item for Network, and it needs to happen. Some of it can happen at the state level, but what's most needed is federal reform. And healthcare, as you've already heard at great length, it needs to be made available and affordable. These are moral imperatives, and the common good is what we're here to support. So we're here with you and join with you to do this hard work ahead of us.
Legislators call this taking a point of personal privilege. So I'd like to take 2 points of personal privilege. First, when I go to the legislature, I'm Sister Therese Bangert, and I speak for the Sisters of Charity today because I'm in an environment of the political world and we're 501c3s. I'm Therese Bangert, the citizen, just so I demark that, okay? The other is that today in Kansas City, Kansas, we buried a detective, Brad Lancaster. And I've been a police chaplain in Kansas City, Kansas for 20 years. So at 2 o'clock on Monday when I got a call to go to police headquarters because a detective had been shot, this has been a big part of my week. So because I couldn't be part of his funeral today, I said I would wear my chaplain black shirt to honor him. So I ask you, if you have prayers, to send them to our community today, and especially to his wife, Jamie, and his 3rd and 5th grade daughters, Jillian and Brianna. And by the way, as Pope Francis says, if you don't pray, send us all good thoughts. So one of my first years in the legislature, I received a high affirmation. One of the legislative staff referred to me as that lady that likes the poor. So, and this like comes from my life as a Sister of Charity. So that has led me to be part of teams since 1987 in the legislature that work on tax policy, immigration policy, welfare policy, and criminal justice policy. So just to honor the time that you've given us, I was going to sing you a song about the cricket and the lion, but I'm just going to summarize it. And it's the lion that's saying, I have all the power and I have all the control, Miss Cricket. You can't do anything. And the cricket says, well, let me think about this a little bit. And when the lion tries to destroy her, she jumps into the lion's ear. She jumps into the lion's ear and she tickles the lion until the lion becomes a friend. And then she says, for power in its truest form was meant to bring us peace. For power in its truest form was meant to bring us peace. So I want to tell you just a couple issues in the legislature where a team of us have been crickets. And I believe that all the things that people have said today, and there's so many things I'd like to put PSs on, like Judge Humphrey saying we need to work for the common good. And they're underscoring the disrespect of the Kansas legislature at this point to the judiciary. Sidebar, every year I've been in the legislature, the head of the Supreme Court comes over to give the joint body of the legislature, Senate and House, a update on how the judiciary is doing. Well, we haven't done that the last years because we don't have time in the legislature, though last year we had 114 days. So it's just one little point, but would like to underscore many of the things they said. But these are a few good things that have happened in the legislature. I'm proud to say when I go to national conventions that I'm from the state of Chris Kobach. And we do not have his mean immigration policy. I don't know how to say it another way. His mean immigration policy. That's because there's a team of people who work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to say the immigrants are integral to our state economy and our state communities all across this state. And we don't want this kind of policy. And I would add, I work with the Kansas Chamber of Commerce on that policy. There's not a lot of things I work with them on, as you might imagine. So in politics, just remember this, no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. This year, some of the people who don't like the immigrants or how law enforcement's working with all of that, they had a bill on sanctuary cities. The sanctuary cities, and they said that Sedgwick County and Johnson County were both sanctuary counties. Well, who comes to give testimony on that bill but Sheriff Easter from Sedgwick County and Sheriff Denning from Johnson County. Sheriff Denning said, I am so disgusted to think that people in my legislative body think I have not been enforcing the law. I've been doing that for 42 years, and you think I'm not enforcing the law? All this immigration stuff is very complicated. All the legal stuff is very complicated. I see the judge shaking her head. Yes. But they came, and people listened to them. I have to say it passed out of committee, but it never had a floor debate on that bill. But it's an example of people being a cricket. Then Kansas has a refundable earned income credit. It's really the primary policy that we have for low-income working parents at this point. And I would suspect that some of the people who set out our buffet and picked up our plates from the table, if they have children, receive the Kansas refundable earned income credit. It's a very simple tax policy that we passed back in 1998 when we were in the land of milk and honey. Graves was our governor, and we had a big tax reduction bill. But this was the piece for the low-income families. And at that point, it was 10%. It got up to 17% because when the Republicans wanted to pass a tax bill, they'd go to the Democrats and say, well, if we raise the earned income credit, can we get some votes? That's how it got raised. But we have been able to hold on to that, again, because a team of people, including Kansas Action for Children, people from across this state, say, it's the one thing we have left for low-income working parents. Can we please keep it? And the last one is, we all know what good work Kansas Action for Children does, and they have a new staff member named Amanda Gress. And so when they tried to cut down the time that a new mother, if she had been on TANF for 12 months, she had to go right back to work. She didn't get any grace time instead of getting the 2 months that had been in policy. And as that bill went from conference committee to conference committee and from floor to floor, Amanda stayed on it. She was the cricket in the ear, I'm telling you, and she kept on it to where they still get 2 months. They took that piece out of the legislation. So I would say also that I have a concern for the children of Kansas who live in poverty. Pre-recession in 2007, there were over 26,000 children who were in families receiving cash assistance. In March of this year, there were 8,500. So a drop of 18,000. Now, I want to be the loudest voice in the place for parents to have jobs. But I add that there need to be realistic support and educational opportunities to prepare them for those jobs. So this session, when I ran into Governor Brownback in the hall, we usually have at least two 2-minute conversations during each session. And he tells me, "Sister, people are moving out of poverty. Aren't you happy about that?" And I said to him, "Governor, I'm skeptical. Until you tell me the job they're in, the wage they get, the benefit, whether or not they have benefits, and whether or not they're in that job 6 months later, I'm skeptical." And he just looks at me again. So the federal data tells us that in 2013 is the last year we have for this, that 10% of the people who left TANF in Kansas had jobs. 36% had their cases closed because of sanctions or the failure to comply with the regulations, administrative policies. So is this why in Kansas today we have more children in foster care than we have ever had in the history of the state? We don't have any study that tells us that, but I think it's a question that we all have. So I would end saying that President Obama, when he talked to the Howard University students, told them, passion isn't enough. He also has to have a strategy. And what I note from this leadership team of Women for Kansas from the beginning, you all have had a strategy. And we still have a strategy. And we have to work that strategy, which is to change, to bring people into the legislature who really reflect the common sense, common good values of the people of Kansas. And if you think you're too small to even be a cricket, you've never been in bed with a mosquito. Thank you for the privilege of being with you.